Go. Okay. Miss Shirley, can you hear us? Hey, Miss Shirley. I think she's still working through. But I'm going to let APD start with just an update. This is the part where we're doing updates on what's been going on, and we'll get into our work in just a little bit. But he's got to jump off after this update, so I wanted to give him that time. Thank you for joining us today, Colby. Oops, I think you're still muted.
There we go.
Yay.
Thank you for having me. I think y'all met Lindsay last meeting. I'm Colby. I am the other community resource officer. I've been with APD for 5 years, a little over 5 years. Been doing this for 3. Not been here too long, but enough to know how things run. So I wanted to introduce myself, see if anybody had any questions about APD or what's going on or anything in your community. We're coming up on the very busy parts of the year for us, with the influx of people visiting Asheville. So it's a busy time for us. Still short staffed, like most everybody. Still working through that. Got a couple of classes, or academy classes going. Hopefully by the end of the year, we start to see the benefits of the hiring that we've been trying to do. But it's a slow process. So we'll hang in there and brace for this summer. So does anybody have any questions for me as far as what's going on?
Go ahead. Hey, Colby, I'm just trying to find out about patrolling in the neighborhoods over this way. And like I had a break-in the other evening, and luckily I didn't have anything taken, but it did happen.
Yeah.
So patrolling over the Grove Street area, Blanton Street, over through that way.
Yeah, so most of that area, that's the areas probably, all of downtown really has seen the really negative side of the short staffing, just because we don't have the district anymore. We do have I think it's 2 officers per shift that work the downtown area, but most of downtown is covered by people that are working off duty. And that's voluntary. So it's not always filled. And so that's the tough part about it, because the district that is in where you're talking about it goes from downtown all the way to Airport Road. And so you've got 6 to maybe 10 officers, depending on the day and time, working for that whole stretch. And so you can always, if anybody notices an uptick in something or something suspicious, please, I don't know if Lindsay gave you all the contact information for our unit specifically, but please feel free to email us, let us know. We have ways to track all the stats and data as far as seeing, if what you're seeing is reflected in our reports and our data. An instance like that, I don't know if you reported it or not, but I encourage everybody to report anything that happens, even if and we know there's no way to solve it. Still report it. There's ways to do it online, where you don't even have to talk to an officer. And it just helps us with our data, because, being short, we have to use our resources more effectively and efficiently. So right now that is pretty much going wherever the data is telling us to. So continue to report, even if there's not a lead, or even if you don't feel like it's, there's going to be anything that comes from it. There may not be, but it does help us with, deploying resources effectively. So if you go online, you can do the P2C. If you just want extra checks in your neighborhood, you can always request it. that doesn't always, is not always able to be fulfilled, but we can send that to the district lieutenant, and they pass it to their sergeants. Sergeants pass it to their teams, that sort of thing. So I will put the email address for our unit in the chat before I get off, and then our phone number as well. Don't let that replace the non-emergency number, though. If something happens and actively happening, please call non-emergency number or 911. Me and Lindsay typically work a Monday through Thursday, 8 to 6. Sometimes it's Monday through Friday. It really depends on, what meetings we have or what stuff we've got going on, but we're mainly through the week. So, us not always being here, please call the non-emergency number if you've got anything actively happening. But you can always request stuff, and the worst we can say is we can't do it. So
Okay, thanks for the input on that.
yeah, absolutely.
Kobe.
Yeah.
I live also in this area, and I have a concern that I have shared with your chief and city manager. We appreciate the short staff, but we've heard that for some time now. We need action. As you leave APD every day before you start your shift, can you not come drive through our neighborhood? We know you're going to Airport Road, but at some point you're coming this way. Can y'all not make a loop and be just present in the neighborhood?
So I don't have the ability to make or pull resources. So we're in a separate division as patrol. Anything like that can certainly be requested, and we can get it into the right hands, or if we can pass all that information along. But at the end of the day, I can't make whoever works that area do that. But certainly, like I said, feel free to air out any of those frustrations or any of those questions, concerns. Send them to us and we'll get it to the right spot. That's what our unit does. We don't always have the answer, but we can get it to the right person and get you to the people that are, that do patrol your neighborhood on a daily basis.
That's a little hard for us to understand when we drive by and two officers are sitting in a parking lot at 6:30, and then we come back through at 8:30 and they're still sitting there.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I'll go ahead and put that email in the chat. I hear what you're saying though. And I wish that I did have more of, I guess, pull with the with patrol and stuff like that. But a lot of times me and Lindsay, our main function is attending meetings, and we deal with homeless camps. So we can pass it along and see what the district lieutenant can do. And if you want, I think Lieutenant Loveland is your district lieutenant. And I'm sure she'd be happy to speak with anybody that would like to.
Okay, I hear you, and this is my last comment. I hear you say that you deal with homeless camps.
Yes, ma'am.
But I pay taxes, so I'm paying you. Homeless camps don't pay taxes. I need to see you in my neighborhood, please. And I'm gonna take this further. Don't think I'm just saying this to you.
No, I understand.
Believe me. And if we have to go to the council, we will to do so. We've been there before.
Yeah, no, I get you. The
It's
camps.
not that hard on you because I know you're police chief, and I know you can only do what he tells you to do.
I'm sorry, I missed that last part. I'm sorry.
I'm not coming down on you.
Right.
You're a police chief.
Right.
You only do what he tells you to do.
That's okay.
Like I said before, we've met with him. We've even had him at our meetings.
Right. I got you. Yeah. The way that our unit is set up, we tend to deal with a lot of nuisance crimes, and camps tends to be one of those. So I think what I hear you saying is something that falls more in line with patrol. And so I certainly would encourage you to talk to either a sergeant within, it's called David District is where your community falls under. and if we need to make that connection for you, we certainly can do that. But I think the district commander would also be a good person to talk to. She's very very receptive to any concerns, and not pawning this off on somebody else. It's just the way that the department works, is that she has the power to tell people what to do and make sure that stuff like that happens. I can send the request out there, but at the end of the day, nobody has to do what I say. So I would certainly encourage you to email our group, the one I just put in the chat. If that can be sent out to everybody, send us an email, air it out, let us know what you feel, what you're seeing, and we'll make sure we get you connected.
Okay, thank you. I have a statement to make. You said there were 6 to 10 officers from here to Longshore Road. Is that correct?
Yeah, it depends on the day. The David district officers, there is I think there's 6 assigned there, and then we have 2 downtown officers, usually per shift, and then the off-duty officers that come in and work, those are anywhere from 0 to 4. So we have 4 slots from noon to 11 p.m. or excuse me, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day. Weekends they go later, but just on a rough average, it can be anywhere from 6 to 12, and that's just dependent on if anybody's sick or vacations, stuff like that. But yes.
And the district commander talked to us because on Friday, this past Friday, one of my neighbor's grandson was pulled over for a traffic violation, and there were 5 officers that are trying to arrest. So I was thinking to myself, if we're that short, why do it take 5 officers for one day?
Where was this at?
Pine Grove Avenue.
I'm sorry.
Pine Grove Avenue.
Pine Grove.
Pine Grove.
If I'm not positive, I don't know what stop that was. Sometimes we have a housing unit, and a lot of times they do stuff in conjunction with each other, and there's 4 or 5 of those. So if it was something they were doing, that would make sense that they were all together.
Also happened Friday on Royal Street, and there is no housing.
Right. The stops don't always happen on housing property though. So, but
we do have another resource that we're working with, because we're just not getting the cooperation from APD that we should, or we deserve. So we have another avenue that we're gonna take. Thank you, also. But thank you, Toby. Thank you.
And the email has been shared. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank y'all.
So thank you all for your input, and like you said, he's going to have to get off the call. I know, Ms. Mildred, you mentioned that you had an update from the group that you were working with. You want to start with that?
D&I and Sheriff Milton. And our committee, the safety committee, we do have, as you all have noticed, the new addition has started down here at the Red Center. That has not slowed down any traffic at all. So we're still working on, the traffic, the speeding up and down the street. And in fact, the grant board, the grant advisory board, will meet next month, and we have someone that we're asking to come to that meeting. It's going to be the first Thursday of the month at 6 o'clock at the Grant Center. We're asking people to come. He's going to be there. He's going to explain it. And it's normally a closed meeting, but we will open it up for the community, so they can share their concerns. The park, Walker Street Park, it has gotten warm, and again, we're having a lot of traffic up there. Yeah. Many of you heard that last weekend there was some shooting and somebody got shot in the River Arts District. Well, we all know that's not gonna happen. They're not gonna allow that to happen. So there's gonna be some moving around in the Walker Street Park. There's gonna be cameras put up, and it's going to be monitored. And the thing about it is, AP, well, it won't be APD, the sheriff is putting these up. You know, he doesn't have to be there to see what's going on. He has a command system of the wall, the whole wall. And when something goes on in that park, it automatically, a signal goes on. And he can see, he can tell you it was in a red car. The license plate was LOVE. It was an African-American male with a white woman sitting on the right-hand side. They were eating popcorn. I've already seen the system. It really cuts to the chase. They, it has been shared with the city of Ashland yet again. This is the second time, I think. So they have just bought into the system, the city. So the city will also be in on that. I can't say how soon that will happen, but I do know it's in the making. I don't have anything because I left it at home. Yeah.
I do have a. Yes, Siobhan.
So, the Walton Park update, on May the 7th, we're gonna have a bike pop-up, something that we have been doing here, just kind of moving it around. And I thought that it'd be good if we do a couple more of those at Walton Park to kind of give people an idea of the possibilities of when we do this redesign. What are some possibilities to do, you know, safe biking for kids? And so that bike pop-up will be May the 7th from 12 to 2. But I'm going to use that time as a community engagement to get input from community on what they want to see in that park. And so on our Monday meetings, we're trying to come up with some questions to ask and just have flip chart things where people can write, kind of like what we did when we did that movie night up there. But just really honing in on that, and so just having some activities going on to get people ideas on what the possibilities could be up there in that park.
Siobhan, yes, it's kind of rough. At this bike pop-up, in the Eddington Center, there was a room that had nothing but bikes and it had been restored. Is that still over there?
So those bikes were new bikes that were given away at Christmas. So they had the Christmas giveaway, and that's why I'm kind of pushing to do these bike events, because now we have a lot of bikes in the community and kids have bikes now. I do know that there's some smaller bikes that are in the auditorium and the storage room in the back. And I guess I'd have to ask Shonda if maybe we can get a few of those just to have in case kids don't have bikes. But there are a few bikes that are in the auditorium. But as far as like the bigger bikes, we don't have, but for the smaller kids, some training wheels on. But yeah, that'll be happening on May the 7th and the 28th. I think when we go back on the 28th with the ideas that we came up with on May the 7th, Parks and Rec is gonna try to come up with those boards to kind of give you an idea of this is what you said you wanted, but here's what that might look like by then. So there'll be 2 engagement events in May to try to get community buy-in and input.
What time?
So 12 to 2 for that bike pop-up part, because they just have that window of time, but I'm gonna stay there because people will be coming and still trying to take in that information. So we'll grill some hot dogs or something just to kind of keep that momentum going, and while people are coming in and out of the park, they're still taking that information.
So do you have a committee or does this committee need to assist you?
No, I think if you keep it like it is, because we get too many heads in the thing and things don't. So I think I'm okay. If I need help, then I'll reach back. But my other folks, Nikita and Mama G, kind of talking and working it out.
Okay. Yeah, I got a question too. What's the future of the Wall Street Park?
Okay, so that's why we're having this engagement. We have $500,000.
Okay.
which is not really a whole lot of money when you're talking about redeveloping the park. The equipment alone is gonna cost that. Then you got labor and all that other stuff, you know. So we've been meeting with the grant center staff on Mondays. We hadn't met the past 2 Mondays because of the spring break and I wasn't available, but we have a follow-up meeting on this coming Monday to talk about how to move that forward. But to do that community engagement and letting people know that this is the money we have and we can redevelop the park.
And let me stress one thing. The board itself has already made it known. You need to make it known that you want a kitchen in there. There is no kitchen. So every time you meet with those people, you need to keep bringing that up that you want a kitchen. Why they build a building without a kitchen, we haven't figured that out, but we've asked for a kitchen. Just, you know, as a grant center, because there's gonna be multi-purpose rooms, you don't wanna use that building, and there's no kitchen facility. So you need to make sure that you keep drilling it into the city.
Well, I'll meet with them on Monday and I'll bring that up.
Right.
So I have, so basically in the community, there's a room that's going around the Walking Street Park and around the soul.
No.
So how do you get out to the people who live in
So hopefully this event on the 7th, we can assure that, and then we'll have some paperwork from the city to say, this is what we have. And they need to put that on paper.
So basically,
You know, but that's a room, and for years, they've been trying to build a road coming through there. And that's the whole point of trying to get the pool on the registry as a historic space. Although we don't have any parts to do with the signage that's out and the whole pool, keep cool, walking pool, whatever that sign is, like that's done from a whole other group of people, like Parks and Rec doesn't even have to get Parks and Rec.
so basically Walking Street is still there, without the pool.
We have $500,000 to redevelop the
And the
park.
pool is going down the drain. The community needs to say Walking Park.
We have $500,000 to redevelop that park. The pool is out. I mean, that's going down there. There's nothing you can do about that. That's done. We have $500,000 to redevelop the park. So, the leadership staff down there, which is Alan and Jessica. And then you have, Pete. And there's some other park and rec, staff from other departments, the landscape lady. Cause I fussed about all those rocks up there. They were saying, well, this is something that we thought, you know, to kind of keep the parking on the grass, but it wasn't like that was the huge problem. You know, so, but yeah, it's like a handful of parks and rec staff that need down there, but the leadership staff down there, Alec and Jessica, and then myself and Mama G has been attending those meetings from this circle of folks, and some other leadership staff.
So that staff down there is basically making the decision for grant center and Walking Park?
No,
Or not?
no,
It's two different groups.
yes, I mean, it's two separate projects. And, like that staff is kind of in the middle because they have to manage the park too. But, this $500,000 that we have, and I don't know if we have that info sheet that they brought. Or,
The board,
yeah,
with the pictures
yeah,
on it?
kind of like we need that.
I do, I got that. Should I get it or?
Yeah, and just so they can help them, because they have attended, you know, so they can.
I'm gonna bring it in before the end of the meeting. There's a moment in a bit where I'm gonna have folks break up into small groups. And so at that point, I'll bring it in, if that's okay.
Okay, and the other thing, well, I'm sorry, how do people in the community know? Because I heard about this meeting today
Yes.
at 2 hours before the meeting. So how do the people in the community know when we are having community meetings, that we need to be at?
By having community members such as yourself, talk to fellow community members who aren't here and invite them to future meetings. It's good that you signed in, so we got your contact information, so you'll be in the loop on communication that goes out when the minutes go out, when the next meeting is. Every third Thursday of the month, starting at 6:30, here is where we're going to be having it. So so you can know that, but you'll also be on the list. And when they come and we get their contact information, they'll be on the list. We understand that everybody doesn't get email, and so we're still working to make sure that the word gets out. But the best way is word of mouth.
But last meeting, I asked if we could have a team, you know, those little things.
Yeah, yeah.
Can Go Green give us one, so that when we have meetings, we can at least put it out front to remind people, maybe two.
Yeah, well, I don't know what they can and cannot do, but if you can help me identify with the vendor and design and all that, then yeah, we'll fix. And then we'll just
Yeah,
have
so
it.
kind of like yard signs.
Yeah.
Like community meets Southside community, meeting
Yeah.
Thursday at 6.
And then maybe we can have one.
Doesn't Ray Mapp do signs like that? Ray Mapp.
Yeah, you know, we put it out every month.
Yeah.
We need more than one though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I said a dozen of them, so we can get them all around the community. Yeah, I'll reach out to Ray.
But we don't need to collect them, they don't need to sit out there.
No, so we'll have somebody on sign duty. Maybe that'll be something that Ray might want to sign up to do.
Yeah.
You know, between him and Mama G, what have you, but I don't think that's a bad idea, just so that it'll be posted at community meeting and where and what time.
Yeah, that's good.
Was it doing outreach to the community about?
Yeah, she does not go. And somebody else wants to do it.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the other thing, as we move, and that's a bit of what we're going to talk about today, is just the accountability piece, right? Things need to get done, but how do we ensure that those things are getting done? To piggyback off of what Shivani was saying, and thank you everybody for your updates. I'd like to suggest a new way, a slightly different way of thinking about the Walton Street situation. Right, we all know the narrative. Communities, cities come to the city. City has come to the community before. What do you want? Communities told the city what you want. City's going on and done something that is not in alignment with what the community said. And then they come back and say, what do you want? And so on the surface, I can understand the frustration, but okay, well, here they go again, asking us what we want. Are they really going to listen? I think this is also an opportunity to look at it in a different perspective. This is an opportunity to look at it, ask the community, what does the community want for this space? Share that with the city of Asheville. If they choose not to do it, but okay, we'll find somebody who will. Because there are vehicles, and I've mentioned this before, there are vehicles in place to ensure that the land is transferred into the hands of community ownership. There are community land trusts. There are different organizations, there are different initiatives. And so there are ways to strategically work so that that land can be put into community ownership, and then the community can determine. The city may not have the funds or may not prioritize spending funds in Wall Street, but the community can come together and find people who will invest in it. And will create something.
I can understand they did a free scheme.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? Why can't they do it also?
And that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
And I was gonna bring that up tonight. I already have a piece picked out.
Yeah.
So the thing is, I'll say this, what's important about what we're doing today is creating a container so that kind of change can take place, right? Today, if the city were to say, you know what, Southside, we screwed up, we really messed up, we want to give you Walton Street Park. Who's there to receive it and to steward it? What does that look like, right? So that's why, even though we're dealing with bylaws today, that's the framework of what can be the structure, the holding entity, a vibrant community organization, like what they got in 3rd Street, like what they got in Shiloh, and they said that's part of the reason why those communities were able to get the city to do those things, because they had what, until this reform, was not existing in this part of this community, right? So that's why the work we're going to do in a moment around bylaws is important. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So just something to keep in mind about those things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pass out a few things to y'all and give you some backstory on what we are going to do.
And while you passing something out.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to mention one thing. There are 4 representatives from this community that are on the reparations committee. We want to hear from you all. And we're hoping that you all will share your thoughts and so forth with us. So that when we go to these meetings, we will be able to voice your opinion and your desires.
So I'm handing out, thank you, Ms. Miller. I'm handing out right now copies of the bylaws for the Empowerment Resource Center at Asheville, County. These were shared with us previously by Dr. Grant. These are to be used as a reference for what we're doing. We're not simply just adopting it and putting our name in here. And what I wanted to say is that this is probably much more detailed than what we need right now.
Which grant are you talking about?
John. Dr. John here.
Is he around?
No, he is not. No, we just got Miss Shirley is online. It's the only one. Miss Shirley, I'll send you the PDF. She can't see. I'll send you the PDF files of these in a moment so you can follow along with us. Okay? I got these documents here. So this is the first piece. This is just a reference for what I'm going to ask y'all to do in just a moment. So the bylaws themselves are just sort of an agreement for how an organization is going to operate. What you've got in your hands are bylaws for a corporation. Right now, we don't know, we have to determine what sort of structure this group is going to be. It could be a corporation, it could be a for-profit corporation, some community development organizations are that. It could be a nonprofit, 501c3. It could be a different type of nonprofit that's not necessarily 501c3, but it's still a nonprofit entity. It could be a co-op. There's a lot of different things which I think require a discussion at a later point because there are positives and negatives to each of those types of organization structures. However, regardless of the structure, there needs to be bylaws or set of agreement of working how this group is going to work, what it does, and what it stands for. So what I'm handing out right now is an outline or sort of like a layperson's, I'll take one of these passing around. We'll do that. A way to break down the sections that are in the bylaws that I just gave you, okay? So if you look at the top of the bylaws page, one of the first things it says is Article 1, it's all official and everything, Article 1, names and offices, right? That's just this top part up here. Who are we and where are our offices? That's what that part is saying in here. It's saying the name of the organization is the Empowerment Resource Center National, the principal office is this address,
Okay.
So these are different ways of answering these questions. The purpose, why we exist, that's in Article 3, right, of the bylaw, talks about what organization does. So what I'm going to be doing is having y'all get in the groups. We're going to do it like we do with kids. I'm going to ask you to count off 3, and we'll be 3 groups, all right? So we're still starting with you. 1, 2, 3. Ms. Harris? 3.
Hello, I'm 1.
1, 2, 3. Welcome. You rounded out. You made it perfect. Okay. So all the ones will be together, all the twos will be together, all the threes will be together. What I'm going to ask that we take maybe like the next 20 minutes working as a group to tackle 3 sections of the outline of bylaws. You can use the bylaws themselves, and let me get you a copy. You can use the bylaws as a reference, but in your group, right, you can write down some notes about the responses to these questions. So group 1 will take name and offices, which that part is pretty simple. We've got a lot of that already. We mainly figure out where we want to have the office itself located, what that looks like. Who is part of what we do when we talk about member shareholders and certificate holders? Again, that's the corporate language. There could just be members, there could be directors, there could be what are they called, how do they get involved? What is the process when someone wants to become part of Southside United? What does that look like? What do we do? What is it under? And the purpose, why do we exist? I'm sharing this for everyone's benefit. This is a synopsis of the things, we had those meetings back in the fall. These are from the flip chart, what we talked about, we want to see for this community, this neighborhood.
Does everyone have an AP or do you need it?
I've got clipboards for groups 1 and 2 and 3. So what, and pins for each. So I'm going to give, you were my 1, you were my 2, you were my 3. Okay. There you go. So in a moment, once everybody gets the papers, it's 7:25. We'll go to 7:45. I'll float around to support with answering questions. But group 1 will take the first 3. Group 2, the second 3, and group 3, the last 2. Because there's not enough to be in group 3. Okay. Group 3 is doing the last 2, which is contract zones and executive director of home management. Okay. And there's space around if y'all want to huddle up, or even if you want to sit outside, there's a picnic table out there. And I'll float around. I'm going to get that chart. And I will be right, and I'm going to send these things to you, Ms. Shirley, in PDF form.
One's over here.
I'll give you this.
That's fish on the next page.
So just FYI, everybody, this is the board that we were talking about that has a breakdown of what's happening. So I'm just gonna set it up there and everybody wants to break that. What's that? That's the way. So, existing
You get it going. Yeah, how you doing?
So our name is Southside.
No. So it says, but we call it accountability. This ain't the whole word. We call it everything now. But we do need an answer. Right, and that's where that section of the is done. And it answers the
Right now, we're just looking at
in a similar way that it's thought about in the bottom. Yeah. And then so
yes,
this talks about the health service or roles and responsibilities, what those rules are. The governing board.
so right now, we're looking at
Legally recognized as a-
with our email as the contact.
Or the register.
It could be today.
That's just one particular way that it's done. It doesn't have this kind of action. It still needs to come. So that's what's and then when it's determined the car, then figuring out how to put how long they can sell it, what kind of authority, those are the questions.
So Southside United Association.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. We're talking about-
United Southside APL@gmail.com. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I put, what they're doing. Yeah. Yeah, APL.
So in this situation, you are not called. What do you call individual?
Okay, member stakeholders and certificate holders.
It is up to. No, well, that's what you were asking for addressing, so what this is. What is the list?
So like I got lobby at 3, so I'm gonna have to put my hot dog. Like I'm not gonna say just. But I'm like, you know, you get it back. I'm like, you know, she said, the next time you do so, I already got it. You said you was getting all this money, but you get so much in change. Well, he been giving us that. He's always been yeah. Yeah, he's been about $1,000. And he got it back. But I had to tell like the kids, the wine store ain't bad, that's the only store. And a lot of people in the community have EBT, and they have to go there. And the closest grocery store is too far away. It's too many buses. So you really need it. But I told you, we also need to start having healthier options. You don't sell an apple, but then you have a basket higher. You know. Yeah, I'm on. Cause I've had to write really up and just support him in things, because he looked to me as an leader. But yeah, I had to kind of have a talk to him, like, so I'm saving you, but you need to be trying to get something to show that you want to support the community. So they don't come down here and cash your store and just hang out with them. You don't care, well, they got I want to pick that story. But we are
Oh, you talking to the son?
yes, the son is the.
Hey, that is what I'm talking.
Yeah, the dad.
Yeah, because you know, they're going to be.
But I can walk in there and talk to them, and they like almost bow down. And I went in there one time with the why the mom was I say, no, that's not. But when they people start to hear from them, how they fit in this day, they're like, I can't see it. So take it out the dog. She chasing my little. I'm like, oh. But yeah, they are. They still potato and they still relate. Well, no, he's not a potato, but they were potato related to some potato.
You see what I'm saying? It's a difference. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay, so, okay, moving on. Okay, so, yeah, so, we're part of what we do, what do they call, and how do they get involved? And they have helped us. So we got Choctaw down. Yeah. They allow them to come from somewhere else.
We got church. So what is they're like the rightful person responsibility, right? Vice they step in. Some organizations they are by default the next person.
Yeah, okay.
Financial aspects of the organization.
Some of them with the education.
But we have one so I'm put the arts in there. But I mean, we don't have we want to reclaim our space. Right. That's like I'm saying that, right. Yeah. That's like saying that somebody from the Southside Association wants to meet with us and see how we can work together or kind of merge the cities. And if we can get it in artist, I got my thing on somebody down there, that's, you know, because my daughter's artwork was on that container for 3.5 years. And so I think, you know, the people, no. But just the people that we have those connections with down there. Just like the crime, like they in the river arts district.
I'm sorry, Miss Shirley, I'm gonna email you these
And
documents.
I'm sure you would want that to be a part of Southside. But he's, it was arts district.
Hey, David, you say something to me.
Yes, ma'am. I was just saying that I'm gonna email you the documents that we are looking at right now, okay?
Is it the same one that Dr. Grant had?
That's one of them, but then I created a couple of additional ones.
Oh, okay.
And so I'll send you the ones that Dr. Grant did not.
I printed the one he sent.
Okay, so I'll just send you PDFs for the other two.
Okay.
And what we're doing is one of them is called an outline of bylaws. And the purpose of that document is to take the language and the format of the bylaws and just make it plain English as opposed to like the super legal bit. And then that's what these groups are working on. Each group is working on a different part of the bylaws to provide plain English answers to these sorts of things. And then the other sheet that I'm sending is just the things that we said during the meetings back in the fall. These are what we want to see for our community. Right? So that's everybody's input. So I just wanted to remind folks of where the conversation has been up until now. So I'm going to send both of those by email in 1 second, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So once we go over here, come around to, yeah. Do you have that map section of our how we're drafted Southside?
I think so.
Is that in our meeting?
I think so. Let me look through.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that it? It's a matter right now?
So Meadow Road. Because I think we had brought that up the last time, Meadow Road, and how that runs into, Victoria.
Okay, Ms. Shirley, I just sent you those documents from the Southside United Gmail account, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Parks and Rec, retail. That's not us. But see, but those people who don't hear the creative neighborhood association. So they have claimed areas that technically historically they are Southside areas. So that's why I say, when you beautify baptized homes,
down south coming this way. River Rock City, all that area coming this way. South Slow, New Walker Heights, all that area coming this way. There's typical south side, but those areas not have association. They have their own association. South Slow, South Florida, and River Rock City.
And we can with that.
Oh, yeah, we can, yeah.
Wait a minute, what about? You keep saying, you keep saying. That's what I'm trying to say.
Coming to Choctaw. So you're part of it, but Choctaw is what I'm talking about. But I'm saying I'm gonna be
We'll get a chance to actually see it all come together.
So that's what I'm saying, like,
It's one
we
side,
know that that was the south, but when you got the south, yeah,
But they made their own maps.
right, right, and so that's why we gotta let them know that.
They have to look out for Southside.
Yeah, so that's like,
that's what they do, what they want to, we got to make sure everybody knows.
but see, when we ain't going to the meeting, that's what city council, and when people go up there with these, here's my proposal for my neighborhood association, okay, when we do it, come back to the next meeting, it's so great, you're now a neighborhood association. They do the paperwork and do everything, got their ducks in the road, that's gonna go through. We regulated the game trying to beat the south side. And so now they're playing areas that historically work our community. So you got South Slope, you got South Florida Association.
But if you want to, you know, those different associations.
Right, because like I talked to Miss Beth, so she has some mom child. And she said, you know, I'm not doing my mailbox over there. She said, but I'm gonna be a part of that. I'm outside. So she trying to pick her head in earlier, but yeah.
This is the matter. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do right now. He doesn't do the job.
So that everybody
I was walking and I was walking, they were coming out. So that's what big,
I think it's like, we try to.
and then work out. So it's like, how do they get involved?
like what we were saying, like the yard signs.
You say free blood pressure. It sounds like a lot of good conversations are happening. We're gonna try to wrap up in a couple of minutes, or at least get you started, so we can report back for the next meeting. All right?
Yeah, it's great. So while y'all thinking of why we exist, I'm gonna print y'all out that map. Well, I need about a dozen or so.
And the why we exist can be informed by the,
Yeah.
yeah, but these things and those meetings in the fall, this is what we talked about, you know. What we want to see. And this was y'all responding and saying, that's what we want to see in the community. So that could be, that's why I'm sharing that to you, remind you what we felt was important.
So we do this like we want, but we do.
Yeah, so I mean, you can find out how you want to say it, but why we exist, because we don't see collaborative community take property. Like whatever, some of those things might be a little bit, some of them may not be as right. Like I said, if you're saying you're representing the community, then these are the things that at least the people that are involved in this process so far have said that they want to see them in this organization.
You were taking the problem.
All right, let's slowly start coming back into the big circle. I know it's juicy discussions coming up here, looks like.
That's what you want, man.
Yeah, oh yeah. That's what we need, that's what we need.
Sounds like a couple. You got state food, state food,
What's that? Oh, yeah, let me go get a stick.
That'll be a good time.
Mhm. All right, let's circle up, y'all. Let's circle up. So we can go back in as a group. Please. There's a stapler making the rounds in case anyone wants to staple their paper together. First of all, thank you very much, each of y'all, for participating in this. If you haven't realized it, this is some of the most tedious and yet the most important work of an organization like this, figuring out how we're gonna work together. And so this really requires everyone's input and participation. So I appreciate you all for doing what you guys so far. And what I wanted to do for my finger stuff here, was use this as an opportunity to briefly report back from each group on the things that you all discussed. What's going to happen, I'll take this information and compile it into a single document. And starting with our next meeting, we'll massage this into the actual language that is going to be in the document, right? And then from then on, we can look at, okay, well, if we decide that we need to hold elections or whatever, then we've got a document that tells us what that looks like, who would be elected, all of this, right? So that's what we're going to do. I'd love to have a volunteer from Group 1 who can just really briefly tell us a little bit about what y'all discussed and if there were any discoveries or revelations around the process. Yes. Okay, one second. I will, yes. Hey, look, essentially, because this is, so these questions, for those who didn't hear, was this, what we're doing right now, needs to be done before we can elect officers? Well, yes, because this is determining who are officers, what do officers do, how long are they officers, what power do they have, right? So we need, as a group, to think about and talk about all of that, so that when we ask someone or invite someone, or someone steps up and says, I want to be in the role of this leadership role, there's already a way of determining, well, here's what would be asked of you in that space. Does that make sense? So do we have someone from Group 1 to really briefly tell us a bit about what y'all discussed? Yeah.
Okay, so, our task was to, our name, Southside United Neighborhood Association. We're located at 133 Livingston Street, Asheville 28801. And our email is unitedsouthsideabl@gmail.com. So that's, until we get a number and a physical office space, we'll just use this, physical address here at the, agency.
And Shavonda, would we be able to have the staff at housing aware that things like mailings or whatever might come here, so maybe they can forward?
Yeah, and so that's, that would be a question that I would ask, and, where would that go? Because a lot of things are by the room numbers here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd have to ask that.
Okay. I think with some set up the association for the developments, use housing offices address back there.
And I'm gonna do that.
Okay.
In the meantime,
Okay.
they'll hold it for me.
Any other business?
The members, shareholders, and certificate holders, so our members are our neighbors, churches, the businesses, the medical community, we have self-help, educational, like with the high school and Delta House that we're including in the South Side, although you are on French Broad and they want to claim your area, but you are part of the South Side. Parks and Rec, as we have Parks and Rec facilities in our community, retail, and the arts. We're claiming the River Arts District because historically that was our community, and we do have a few, like the Grind Coffee and the Black Wall Street that's in that community that would probably love to be a part of the South Side community. Being who's a part of that whole business there, so. And then how do people get involved by posting community meetings like the yard sign that we mentioned earlier, word of mouth, having a day of free healthcare, and Ms. Mildred mentioned something about first-time home buyers classes. But I think that's part of the program that we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's like,
when I asked those, this not just about the members, shareholders, stakeholders, whatever. Again, that's more the corporate language. it can also be different terminology used, but for example, when we say we are our members of Southside United, what does it mean to be a member? Right? What does it mean to be a member? Do you have to live in the neighborhood? Do you have to work in the neighborhood? How long would you have to live? Can you rent and be a part of it? Do you need to be a homeowner? What does that look like? Because that also helps determine, like, this can be an organization that has authority behind it, and at the same time, the rules around what membership looks like are clearly defined. You can have people who don't live in the neighborhood, you're like, oh, I was a member, now I'm the leader, because I'm on this leadership decision, and now I'm making decisions for the organization, but I don't live in the neighborhood. Or it could be that living in the neighborhood is not a part of membership, it could be something different. That's for you all to decide. Membership, you determine what membership can be. And then from what this group is working on was like leadership and accountability. So whoever is responsible for accountability has to first be a member. Right? And so that's how all these things come together.
Okay.
But that's a good, what y'all have is a good place for us to start.
Okay, and then I think, that's kind of where I left off with my note taking, because we had got to the purpose and I stepped out.
Thank you.
And just, I'm handing y'all these maps, and it is kind of small, but that heavy line there just kind of outlines what the city determines as Southside.
And I'll ask Brendan Mills to get us a bigger.
Well,
version
like that, so
of
you can really see it.
So you can really see it, because that was just sent to me in an email, it was all small. I tried to go up and be able to see.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the way the city determines the Southside community, and the South Slope is not in our community. North of, Choctaw is considered the Southeast Bar Neighborhood Association, and then around the bend there, River Arts District.
And that Victoria have one?
Huh?
Victoria have an association?
No, so that's gonna be a part of the South Side, Victoria, yeah. And so if you can kind of read that, they have to pull out a magnifying glass so you can see that, but it'll just show you the boundaries of how the city's outlined the South Side.
Will you send him the link?
Yes, everyone will get all this information.
Okay, yeah, I think he's trying to get on. I can send it to you.
Well, we're about to wrap up in a little bit, so I'll make sure to stick with you. Thank you, group one. Group two was, I can't remember which was group two. Okay.
We said it, the accountability team was a good non-threatening purpose to call leadership.
So in my case, what it would be then is decided through membership. So as this group is determined, well, in order to be a member, you have to meet these requirements. Once you meet the requirements to be a member, you now have the ability to either nominate somebody or be nominated by someone for a leadership position. And all of the membership votes, which means that leaders are now accountable to all the membership, right? And at the same time, we're gonna do this work on behalf of the membership, so yes.
And in the same way that there's elected, they also.
Yeah, right, that's fine with us.
They can leave by written notification to the accountability team. Or to the Southside. What are the central roles of town? And we have members, so we have chair, vice chair, treasurer, secretary, and court. We had a question on the court secretary. Very concerned about the court. Because some of you should have the court secretary. So that's when somebody to do the name.
Yeah, I mean, so it's often when you have different levels of secretary, there's like a corresponding secretary, a recording secretary. Corresponding secretary is the one that sends communications to other people, have Southside United, blah, blah, blah. Whereas the recording secretary is someone responsible in the minutes for documenting what's been said, whether it's at the accountability meeting or whether it's at the general meeting. It would be their responsibility to capture that and archive it and make it available.
My understanding also the treasurer,
Yes. Yeah, the secretary, particularly the recording secretary, is the one that holds on to all of the documents, all of the information that are important for the existence of the organization. Things like bylaws, lists of directors or individuals that are involved. The secretary would be the one that would have that information, or at least have access to it.
I think, the rethink is, you need an odd number.
Definitely.
But we need a second, I mean, you know, as far as the honest number.
And this is not set in stone.
Right, and then they can be flexible.
Exactly, thank
You
you.
know, so once we get started, and we go by this, you know, this group of bylaws, 6 months down the road, we might feel like we might need to add 2 more officers. We might need to start it on to the meeting.
Right, the first year, we might be like, you know what? Just don't keep it real.
But that's something that we can do now, we have extra bylaws down the road, you know, but I think just to get something going, and, you know, I think those 5 is good. And having the recording secretary and the, and corresponding that communications person to really get that out. So that way it's not so much on one person.
And the corresponding secretary will not only be responsible for communicating between the neighborhood association and other entities like the French Broad Neighborhood Association or East End or Chicago, or whatever that might look like. Also responsible for making sure that members are aware of what's going on. Like, hey, there's a members meeting that's happening on this day and time, or there's a board meeting that's happening on this day and time, or whatever, right? So that's would be another responsibility.
And you know, I was thinking, one office that has they did this story, because you know, there's been a lot of issues lost. Because our parents and things like that, and young people relate, you know. So if we don't capture it now or forward, we will lose.
I agree with that. And I think there needs to be someone who is in the role of historian for the organization. The question for you all is whether that needs to be someone who's on the accountability team, like in a particular office, or can it just be an individual who's obligated to serve that, like, you know, somebody like Mr. Harvey, Mr. Sill, a great historian, because there's so much information. Yeah, so that's something that y'all can determine.
So we can reel them back in.
And facility.
That's just, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, that was everything, group 2? Okay, thank you. Group 3.
I was just contract loan was checked in the offices, who is operating the site, legally binding agreements for
Who can authorize purchases by the organization with the board of directors? What are the terms and parameters of that organization? Board of directors meet before the third Thursday to present the information before the entire body. And there will be executive director of ongoing management, who does the accountability team to select to oversee the ongoing management of the organization. Meetings with the board of directors, what powers do they have? And then it's 2 members of the board of directors.
So what that means for those who weren't part of that group, the section of the bylaws they were working on was related to the, first of all, the accountability around who has the authority to officially sign on behalf of the organization, right? And people might say, well, we're Southside United or whatever, but you know, if you're not the secretary or the chair, you might not be able to sign or sign an agreement or sign a check or whatever. So that's what that first bit was. And she was saying that the board of directors or the accountability team would be the entity to make that determination. That's about signing contracts, about signing checks, all of that stuff. And the structure within the accountability team is there because we talked about chair, we talked about treasurer, we talked about secretary. So those roles can be filled by the accountability team. They can determine internally how that's handled. The second piece, or the second question, was around the ongoing management of the organization. At this point, it probably is fine to have the accountability team concerned with the ongoing management because there's not a whole lot to manage at this point. As the organization grows, however, it might make sense to think about, okay, well, we need to hire somebody who has like maybe doing 10, 15, 20 hours a week so that they're meeting with people to follow up on things. Like we've been trying to get APD to come out here and do this, so that would be somebody that is hired or appointed by the accountability team to represent and duly authorized as representative to go and then meet and then bring that information back to the group at times when we're not able to do it because we've got other jobs or other things that we're doing. So that would be a way of having an employee or somebody that works for the interest of the organization. And then that doesn't have to be a member. That can be a member. And it would be a great way to offer some opportunity for members. But the group might decide, you know, we want to hire somebody who knows how to get in there, get their elbows out and get what we want. And so that's another thing that can happen. That's why I'm saying all of these things can be adapted and shifted to fit the needs. So absolutely.
We need to identify public relations first.
So again, that's corresponding secretary. That's what that would be. And if this accountability team, then we just like, okay, we're getting too many. And I'm the corresponding secretary, but that's only a part-time thing for me, and I'm doing all this other stuff. Then it might be, that's where someone who could be hired, that maybe not full-on PR person, but they understand PR, they understand grant writing, they understand all these other kinds of things to help advance the mission and meet the purpose of the organization. How did that feel to you all going through that, answering those questions and working together?
I think that's a step in the right direction and it's something that needs to happen. I think it's got everybody really thinking, you know, like this is official. We are Southside United. And once we get these bylaws nailed, then we ready to go.
Yeah.
Elected people or nominating or have, you know.
Well, let me ask another question. I know I did. Okay, we get our bylaws. I do. We the point. What point do we want to make these bylaws?
That's up to y'all to decide. One of the things that I said early on, and might have just been addressing to this group here, but the structure of the organization is something that I think you all should discuss when there's enough time to really explore. Because yes, you can make it a 501c3. However, there's steps and things that go into making that happen. There's advantages because you can get grants, but you've got responsibilities that go along with that. And so your accountability team needs to make sure the taxes are getting filed and that all of these things are being done. That might not be what you want to do, right? You could also explore different types of structures. It could be a for-profit corporation, or it could be some sort of, they have nonprofits and they have not-for-profits. And that's another decision, and equals, it could be any sort of structure that you all decide. Like one thing to consider could be a co-op, because in that way, everyone pays a membership fee, but then as the organization grows, members actually own into that. They all have a portion of that and receive, a collective share based on their memberships. That's one way to look at it. But I think the discussion around the structure should take some more time than we have in the meeting tonight. But regardless of the structure of what we did today, so that it could jump off point for how that
So
structure.
I think in our next meeting, having that outline of what the different types and what they do. So people will understand.
Yeah.
And what the benefits are. I mean, nonprofits are good, but it's a lot of,
It is, yeah, it
we
is.
got so many nonprofits here in the state of North Carolina, it don't make sense.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are competing like about the same things and, and so, yeah.
And at the same time, there is a lot of funding through the nonprofit space for the kind of work that we talk about doing. Talking about getting land back in community control, there's funds out there to do that. Talking about starting businesses for residents to transition into career development and stable employment, there's funding out there to support that. Talking about building parks and historic, there's all sorts of things that can be done. And as Siobhan and Mr. Harris know from the time working on projects like this, you go around the country and there are neighborhoods just like this, with people that look just like us. They're doing so much. They get land back from the city. They're getting money from organizations. They're doing stuff for their kids. They're keeping the streets safe. They're feeding their community. All of these are things that can be done right here as a result of coming together in the way we started, in these meetings. So I want to appreciate, Shelby, I appreciate you. We do Mr. Harris, Ms. D, and then that would be it.
Could you, order the next steps, could you just short outline us difference for all of these nonprofits?
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
saying.
that's
No, not going into more detail. So that when we leave you with the line. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Then decide how.
No, I was just gonna say, maybe a little short outline for the ones that hasn't been to the meeting, to let them know about us becoming an association, our affiliation with the city. Why we did that.
Absolutely. You mean just like in this space right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the neighborhood association, is a recognized entity by the city of Ashland. In order to do so, there's paperwork that needs to be submitted, which we submitted, right at the end of the year / And what that paperwork determines, as the group we found the answers, there's a section of the city, boundaries that are outlined on the map that you want to share with everyone, that within that boundary, it is represented by this group, this Southside United Neighborhood Organization. So that's why today we're talking about ground rules and bylaws and what that looks like. Now, the reason going that route is because when the city interacts with neighborhoods, they ultimately have to respect the neighborhood association. And the more organized neighborhood associations are able to get more of what they want. Just look at Martin, just look at Kenilworth, just look at East End, just look, right? So those are the Shiloh, those are the ones that are able to do constants, and there's a structure in place. So had there been a neighborhood association in place prior to now, it's likely that what happened with the park, or what is happening with the park, would have never happened. Because the pool in the park would have been part of the community plan. And so any plans that the city might have had about trying to build something someplace else, the neighborhood association could step up and be like, that's not what we want. We said we want this. And so how are you going to address that? But in the absence of that, there's nothing to represent that.
So we could have said that food could have stayed in the store.
It very well could have been, had things been done differently, but, you know, can't change the past, right? Which is why what I was saying earlier is still important. If the community, particularly led by the nurse here, can go through the process and say, this is what we want that space to look like, right? Remove the city of Asheville from that process. Just let's think about what we want. Share that with the city. And if the city's not willing to do it, find out who it is, because you know, we got a neighborhood association, right? And you won't listen to us, because we're getting our stuff together. So that's what, now, it's not gonna be an overnight thing, obviously, right? It's gonna take time and take work, but that's why the work that we're doing today sets the foundation.
So this association be the one that get outside, Southside.
Yes, ma'am.
I get everything every time I see that picture.
And so I'm glad that you mentioned that, because my last point is about a couple of folks who have asked to be at the next meeting. All right, so one of them is Lucy Crown. Lucy's from the city of Nashville. Get specifically which department, but Lucy wants to come and talk about the signs that would go along the greenway that they're doing along the markers and what that looks like. And the other individual is met by the name of Michael, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. He lives, thank you. He lives in what is recognized as the South French Broad Neighborhood Association, but has said that he and that association are looking for ways to support and align with historic Southside. And would like opportunity to address this committee. And that is something that y'all can decide whether or not you want to have an audience for or not. I'm just asking along the board.
Can you email us, 2 weeks prior to the next meeting so we can, everybody can chime in or do a Zoom phone?
Yeah, what is his reason? I mean.
Man is an artist, right, Lee?
No,
Take that with Rich Balls.
Michael lives right next door to mine. You know, the two houses.
I don't want to let me
Yeah.
Oh,
His
yeah?
mother, yeah, his mother owned that next. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the message. Hello, Southside United. Congratulations on formalizing your neighborhood civic organization. As a resident of the north end of historic Southside, I had hoped to be part of your formative discussions, but was only able to attend virtually. It is my hope to see the reunification in our neighborhood. South French Broad was adopted by neighbors fighting the proposed energy substation on the corner of Ashland and Hoover. Previously, the division had been created by the city's intention to pursue a vision plan for South French Broad, a nascent organization that expired shortly after that. I have plenty of neighbors who never identified as anything but Southside. I want to see that history honored. I hope time can end the separation.
So the way he's saying is that they were formed to, and so they were formed to say, no, we don't want to do, and guess what happened? This didn't come.
But they've also been invited to the Southside. Grant Board has invited South French Broad to different projects that we have had, and they do not come. They're always invited.
And I think what he's saying is that they probably aren't doing it enough. It sounds like they came together for that one
For
thing.
that one
That
person.
one thing happened,
So
and
they-
everybody, they just went their own ways.
No,
So
no,
that's
no,
no.
no, no, they're very organized.
Okay.
They are. They're gonna have the candidates, they had the candidates at the Y, just a few weeks, they have outside potlucks, block parties or something. Oh, they're organized. I get all these things, cause I used to be,
So, yeah, I want to talk to him.
This is what we're doing.
Yeah, so, yeah.
there's a motive, and I mean, I would listen to it, but he has emailed us individually, he's called us. I mean, he's called the Grant Center, what he,
So maybe we give them 2 minutes at the top. Just to, come in and get you. Not so that you come out, but like.
That's how I'd like to suggest that we look at the structure of things, like that sort of 6:30 to 6:45 time, coming in, get your food, settle down, catch up, hey, good to see you, and then 6:45 to 7 is when we have our updates and check-ins, and then around 7 we get into the work. So that right around now, so that we can finish up and go home.
Yeah, I like to know too, what the motive is. We gotta come up with. So I say, yay, go ahead and invite him, but he only gets a little bit of time and then we kick him out.
Just listen. Any last questions? Or comments about anything that's next?
Well, I just want to.
Yes, please.
This work is something we will have, very large church. Being fish fry, so, nothing is wrong, but most of the people that have been showing up are people volunteering, regular work. Next work Sunday in May, I am part of finance and community dinner that I would like to have. At the same time, first Sunday, 2 to 4 o'clock. And so I'm part of finance and they have my own pocket. In one sense, it is to honor my grandmother who used to do this. Which she was, of course, all of me that much that she did. But we have a fourth Sunday, something in the garden all the time. And fourth Sunday, 2 people. Siobhan, you have 3 of us the first time?
Yeah, it was me up there when we first started.
Right, so, and it has gone up to 20 people showing up out there. This fourth Sunday, it's Friday.
It's Chef, I'm not, it's full Sunday. You said this full Sunday? Yes, the Sunday coming.
Sunday.
Yes. Well, okay.
Yeah, I'm not, yeah. So this is that fourth Sunday. And then, like I said, the next fourth Sunday, if we could come together to have a community in order for.
Mr. Harris about the protein. So folks, we're asking folks to bring a side dish, vegetables, something to accompany chicken and whatever. We always have chicken. But if, folks are bringing a couple of fish to share.
It happens every fourth Sunday, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock. The other thing is that the Southside garden took a step up a couple of weeks ago. We went to West North Carolina Expo. We were there all week, just talking folks about who we are and what it's all about. So, what it is, we bring the garden, take the garden name off of the garden name. The 2 young ladies that are working in the garden now, that's what they say, we're the farm now. So, let's take it to another level, which means between garden and farm. Yeah, we don't pretty much.
A garden you go through for yourself, and a farm you go through for yourself. So it's like we're going through something. But no, we don't want any animals. I mean, we're trying to buy a damn house now, somebody gets things wrapped around our garden.
So,
Well, they got it in their new name. Well, not over there. They got it in the Greek man.
Oh, your boy.
they're here now.
I got them now.
Is that it, Mr. Harris?
That's it.
Also, the farmers markets starting May 1st.
We have a farmers market.
Starting May 1st, yeah.
Out of the parking lot. Expand it.
And we do accept EBT, we do have a, paper, so
It's starting May 1st, every Sunday, right? It's gonna be, or is it once a month or? Okay. Yes, yeah. Okay,
But then, you know, I learned through having, now y'all might know this, Southside Community Farm signs, the orange signs with the green, they open a bunch of greens. So they're in the south side, you'll see orange little yard signs. But they have a QR code you can scan and find out information to about the farm.
bring one of those in at the next meeting,
Yeah,
so folks can do that too, okay? Thank you. One more, okay, we're gonna end out with Ms. Mildred.
Siobhan, Livingston area community cleanup this weekend.
Oh, yeah, and I'm glad you, yeah,
Because let me say this. Laquita and the Grant Center was concerned about needles and so forth. And the sheriff had asked her to get in touch with APD. I'm not sure if she has or not. You know, she had concern, you know, but she had concern about the needles. Last time they cleaned, so we're supposed to get APD involved. So I will be.
And you know, no, and I know the residents council, when we do cleanups and stuff, we come across that problem, and so we get sharp containers from 40 cops. And my thing is, they need to reach out, Parks and Rec needs to reach out to the steady collective, these folks that are giving away these clean needles to people, if they bring dirty needles in, half time they don't. But they need to come in the community and help clean up the needles too, and they're the ones giving them out. Steady collective. And you can probably reach them through WinCat.
Well, I'm sure what she did.
But yeah, but that, and I just hate that it's coming to our community like that, and they, that's the worst thing that ever happened. And somebody's child gets hooked with a needle. Then you got hepatitis, all sorts of things, and these kids have to keep going to doctors, taking medicines, and keep getting treatments and what have you. It's terrible. But steady collective needs to come out in the community and pick up some of these needles that they're giving out. In my opinion.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, well, thank you all, everyone. I know we are a little bit past.
And thank y'all for the new folks that came in today.
Yes,
Your
yes.
first time being here. I really appreciate you all showing up.
Third Thursday.
Third
Thursday
Thursday
of the month.
Third Thursday.
Yes, 6:30 is when we start, yeah. Thank you all.